So every Friday, as we've discussed, we're doing something new here on the 208. We're calling it the 208 Callback, and that's because we're revisiting some of the most talked about stories of the week and sharing them with you again, not just because you may have missed them, but because we received so many text messages and comments about them. We want to continue the conversation because that's what this program's about, talking with you, the viewers, and the community. And by far, this next story was the most talked about of the week, after lawmakers questioned the line between genuine politics and performance politics. Now, that question came on Wednesday as the Idaho House passionately debated an abortion resolution called the Day of Tears. This House resolution generated passionate debate on the topic of abortion. Republican Representative Barbara Ehart is sponsoring the idea to, quote, acknowledge the loss of life from the millions of unborn children since the Supreme Court's decision in Roe v. Wade. In the resolution, Ehart lays out a way that she would like to honor the occasion. The House clerk picks it up from here.
That January 22nd in perpetuity hereby be recognized as the Day of Tears in Idaho, and that the citizens of Idaho be encouraged to lower their flags to half-staff to mourn the innocents who have lost their lives to abortion.
Ehart kicked off debate, explaining her idea.
What we're actually doing is we are creating a day of remembrance that's helping us to remember an egregious wrong that's been perpetrated on our kids, on the United States. And I hope we don't have to continue to remember it, because I believe that in less than a year from now, we are going to be able to celebrate, because the laws are going to be changed and it's going to be sent back to the states as it should. That is my hope.
Ehart is referring to the expected challenge to Roe v. Wade at the Supreme Court. If the conservative-leaning court reversed the landmark case, women could lose the right to an abortion. Idaho Democrats responded in debate to push back on the idea, specifically the part that involved lowering flags. Debate for critics of the idea wasn't centered on abortion or reproductive rights, though. Instead, respecting the American flag.
Is this the path we want to take as political parties, that we hijack and use this as a billboard to carry some political divisive message? This flag deserves so much more respect. And by taking advantage of it and using it to spew whatever divisive message you want is a complete, shameful, disrespectful to this flag and the people who've served serving it.
The legislation is a resolution, meaning it's basically just the message from lawmakers. Still, critics of lowering the flag for Day of Tears highlight that lowering the flag has specific conditions about who can order it on the state, federal, and local level.
Only presidents, governors of states, territories, or possessions can issue half-staff orders.
Ehart pushed back, explaining her idea more.
For our private businesses to consider lowering their flags at half-staff, there's no mandate. There's nothing that would fly in the face of honoring others who pass on, but we will admit that we lower that flag for many reasons, and to honor a large segment who's no longer here, I believe, would be a good use of those who would like to join in with us.
Debate continued along the lines of paying tribute to lives lost through abortion and respecting the American flag.
This isn't about whether you're pro-life or pro-choice. This has nothing to do. Your vote today should not be informed in any way, shape, or form by your feelings about abortion and its legality. This is about the proper treatment of our flag. Period. Full stop.
This isn't a cheap ploy. This is about putting us in a position to remember and in our own way doing something about it.
We got so many messages about this legislation that we didn't have time to get to all the comments back on Wednesday. And what's interesting is that while lawmakers against this bill cited the American flag, most viewers who texted us actually mentioned honoring others as well. Here's what you had to say. Leave people alone, says Chris. Should we have a day of tears for those who have not chosen to be vaccinated and died? It's no one's business, but obviously abortion is still everyone's business. Yep, we live in a two-standard country in the 21st century. Cindy says, quote, I suggest we add the number of people who have died of COVID to the Day of Tears resolution if they pass it. Both numbers are based on personal choice, right? This person says, how about a day of recognition for those whose ancestors were forced into slavery, and another day for Native Americans whose lands were stolen and whose lives were destroyed? Lower the flags, says Richard in Boise. And finally, this one from Sheila saying, quote, a day of tears for the unborn, yet Idaho still lets certain religious groups let their living children die of medical neglect with no consequences. How about a day of tears for them? Those are the comments. And that comment referring to faith healing, which is the common term here in Idaho. Those are people who are exempt from prosecution if their child does die because they chose to seek prayer instead of medical treatment per their religion. Now, that is legal in the state of Idaho. By the way, Representative Ehart's resolution, it doesn't mandate that flags have to be flown at half-staff or anyway. Again, a resolution is really just a message from lawmakers about really what they're feeling on a subject like abortion.